Hello Universe, Josh here. In this video I want to analyze Paris Peter II's response to Scouty's Think Aloud protocol. I hope that's alright with you, Peter. If not, just let me know, send me a message. I think it should be fine though, because you submitted your video to the internet at large. Okay, so you start off, you say, I don't have a clue what that means. First, it seems to be a very common response at the beginning with those first big words. And then you go on, and of course you decipher it word by word, and transmeridian flight, you get flying across meridian lines, circadian dysynchrony. This is interesting. Not everybody did the pronunciation game, disynchrony and dysynchrony, trying to see which one felt right, which one felt better. I think I also saw scientific discussion also doing that with the same word, I'm pretty sure. And then, yeah, there's the humorous thinking circadians is the Greek islands. I actually looked that up. I think it's the Cyclades or Cyclades. I don't know how to say it, but I read it. Then you go ahead and put those together and try and guess what the meaning might be. Instructions for flight or navigation of the Greek islands. This is the hypothesis thing, which Scouty has mentioned a few times. And then, yeah, you're kind of building your meaning of circadian, and you manage to rule out that it isn't necessarily the overall environmental rhythmicity. It has something to do with the internal rhythmicity, and you're kind of building by process of elimination, basically by what else is talked about in the text. And then you say, what on earth would environmental synchronizers be? And I just talked about this with Are You Talking to Me? And I think that it's become clear by the general response, that this particular term, it would have to contain some kind of internal context, because they would have to define what they meant there, besides something like broad and general. And then you go through deciphering the meaning of this by using the examples that are given, and that does help. The examples are definitely clues to how to decipher the meaning of that. And I got a message. I'm not here. And okay, the next thing you mentioned is that you would read it through quite quickly without stopping to find out what each word means. The only reason you're going line by line is because you're supposed to tell us what you're thinking while you're doing it. And what did you say? When you get this is your quote, when you get a general sense, then you can come back to the particular sense of the phrase or the vocabulary that's used and try to guess what that means. And I think that's what we all would have kind of eventually done if we could go over it again. Interesting. It seems that although speech and writing is one-dimensional, I said before that I think thought takes place in 3 dimensions. I think this may be evidence that reading also takes place in more than one dimension. Interesting that listening to a recording or watching a YouTube video or listening to a conversation, you have no choice but to receive in one dimension. The dimension that's being fed to you in real time. But text is freer in that you can go back over things that you missed, or things that you didn't understand, and you can light up those previous parts of the text with later parts of the text by jumping back and forth. You can't do that in video. Well, you can rewind, but you can't do that in a real conversation. And yet so many people seem to get more out of audio-visual input than text. At least that's the case for all but the very technical sorts of information. Why might that be? Perhaps because of the intonation of voice that can act as a second channel of input, and body language and facial expressions that can act as a third channel of input, like if you had access to a video. Moving on, I think shift workers was also a key for Peter, as we've seen it with everyone else. You picked up the natural rhythms and said, I think I'm starting to get something here when you saw that, right around the sentence where it mentions shift workers. So here he mentions jet lag, but, and this might have something to do with Peter's background or training in critical thinking. He takes a step forward into jet lag, but then he takes a step back, realizing that it isn't entirely accurate to describe the whole article as about jet lag, even though for 90% of people that probably would be a sufficient summary, because scientific texts strive for extreme precision, and they want to tell you exactly what they are talking about. This is often the source of people complaining about big words in scientific texts. If they were just talking about jet lag the whole time, why didn't they just say jet lag? Why did they have to go and try sounding all scientific and precocious? Well, because it's about saying exactly what you mean. No more, no less. Exactly what you mean. Which isn't, it's not exactly jet lag. They're talking about other things too, and not all of jet lag. Or, you know, it's a little bit different. It's distinction. Precise. Precise meaning. Annoying, but necessary. Once he gets into the second paragraph, you start to put it into your own words, saying, oh, okay, suddenly it's becoming much clearer. Then, when it's really clear, you stop even doing that. You stop putting in your own words, and you say, I have no problems with that, or okay, that's fine, or that's good, I understand, or yes, or whatever. And then towards the end of the second paragraph, I think, the meaning of circadian becomes clear to you, and you give like a definition. And I think you're right about your quick and dirty approach, though. That is that if you had read really fast through the whole thing and got the whole sense of the whole thing and then gone back, in fact, maybe you should have just gone with your instinct there and just done that. Might have been more accurate. I'm not saying that what you did was wrong or bad. Well, you know, take it for what it is. You probably would have got to the meaning of circadian faster if you hadn't had to explain everything while like thinking out loud, which is something that I just mentioned with Are You Talking to Me, where he had to split his consciousness between reading the text and understanding and thinking, and then outputting. I don't know how hard that is. Maybe that's not really that hard. Maybe sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Maybe it depends how much sleep you've had if you're suffering from a jet lag trip. Okay, and that's actually all I wrote. All I have, all the notes I took from your video there, Peter. So if you want to let me know what you think, that's what I think of your analysis. And of course it's enlightening to, it's great that you participated, and thanks again, Scouty, for starting this whole project up. It's certainly lasted a while. Okay, and I'm going to go now. Okay, bye.